Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well and having a great Saturday so far. In tonight's forecast update, we're going to be talking about our severe weather threat over the next few days. And then after that, kind of towards the very end of the video, we'll be looking at what we could potentially expect for next week. So first, starting out with today's severe weather risk. On Saturday the 22nd, we have a slight risk into portions of southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, into Missouri, and extreme northwestern Arkansas. And around that is a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk, all the way into Missouri, southeastern Kansas, once again, northeastern Oklahoma, and northwestern Arkansas. And so if we look at our risk here, we just have a small 2% tornado risk in that green color. For a wind risk, we have a 5% risk for damaging winds in the brown color. And then for our hail risk, we just have a 15% hail risk in the yellow color and a 5% hail risk in the brown color there. And then looking at tomorrow's severe weather risk on Sunday the 23rd, and we have a level 2 out of 5 slight risk all the way from western Tennessee all the way down into eastern Texas, and then into Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, as well as Alabama, a small section of Alabama that is. And around that, level 2 out of 5 risk is a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk all the way from Kentucky down to the south into eastern Texas once again, and into those states in between those areas for tomorrow. And so if we look at our tornado risk, we do have a 2% tornado risk in the green color and a 5% tornado risk in the brown color into Mississippi, Louisiana, and into a small section of Arkansas. And then looking at our wind risk here, we have a 15% wind risk in the yellow color and a 5% wind risk in the brown color for tomorrow on Sunday. And then finally, looking at our hail risk, we have a 15% hail risk in the yellow color and a 5% hail risk in the brown color into those areas there. So looking at our risk for tonight into tomorrow, and we'll be looking at the 3-kilometer NAM weather model here. And so if we continue this on as we get later into this evening, you could see some rain start to form over parts of Kansas and even into Missouri, Oklahoma as well. And then as you get into late tonight, not really late tonight, but well into 10 o'clock tonight, Central Daylight Time, you could have some storms beginning to pop up over northeastern Oklahoma. And so those storms will continue on to the east and move into Missouri and even into Arkansas as we get to about 12 a.m. tonight. And then into about 3 a.m. Central Daylight Time, you could see quite a few storms into Missouri and into some portions of eastern Kansas, but mostly with a scattered storm mode here into Missouri by 4, maybe 5 a.m. tomorrow, Central Daylight Time into Sunday. And then you could see maybe another little band of convection try to get going early tomorrow morning, maybe around 6 or 7 a.m. And those storms could get going and move further to the south and kind of develop into a little line of storms potentially tomorrow morning into Missouri. And then that would mostly dissipate by maybe around 9 a.m. tomorrow on Sunday across these areas. And then that moves us into our threat for tomorrow on Sunday across portions of the south. Now looking at tomorrow on Sunday, once again, with the 3-kilometer NAM. And so if we get to about 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time, you could see some rain and just some showers across portions of the upper south and even into the deep south. But then as you get into about 6 p.m. tomorrow Central Daylight Time, you could see some storms starting to get going across Arkansas and Louisiana, as well into Mississippi and Tennessee and way up into the Ohio Valley. But our main focus is once again into the south. But as you get into about 8 and 9 p.m. tomorrow Central Daylight Time, you could see a pretty stretched out long line of storms. Not line, I would say, but definitely some kind of clustered up storm mode, where that cold front is slowly dipping to the south and moving And this will see our greatest threat for probably all hazards, but especially that tornado threat into Mississippi late tomorrow evening into the nighttime hours tomorrow and into Monday. Not really Monday, but late tomorrow night into very early on Monday. Um, and so as you can see, we have quite a few storms here showing up on the 3 kilometer NAM. And once again, the threat for all hazards will probably persist into early on Monday, but the greatest threat will probably be late tomorrow night. And those move to the east still by even Monday morning, and you could still have some maybe strong, maybe some severe storms into Alabama and Mississippi by Monday morning, but I would say that threat would slowly start to diminish even further as you get into early Monday morning. But that'll be the main kind of areas to watch, especially really into Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana late tomorrow night into early on Monday. And then that will pretty much lead us to our Monday severe weather risk, which we'll talk about in just one moment. So finally looking at our risk on Monday, March the 24th. And so we have a marginal risk, a level 1 out of 5 risk across eastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, into southwestern Georgia, and into the panhandle of Florida once again for Monday. So just quickly looking at the 18Z GFS, and so as you get into Monday morning and then eventually Monday afternoon, you could see some of those storms into Georgia, Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida. But that main kind of line that you would see, or you're going to see moving across the mid and upper south tomorrow, will be kind of moving off and towards the coast by then, but you could see more development of storms behind that kind of weak line, and that'll be really our main threat. Our main reason why we have a marginal risk for Monday is because we could see some more development once again into maybe Alabama, Georgia, the panhandle of Florida as well. And so if we look at surface-based CAPE here, you can see by about midday on Monday, you do have a decent amount of instability into Alabama, even Mississippi, and the panhandle of Florida, but most of that instability along that other kind of lead line of storms is gone because you just have so much coverage, so much cloud cover, should say, into those areas. So that will limit the severe potential with those other lines of storms. But if you do get any redevelopment of storms behind that line, that's when you're going to see your other severe weather risk, and most of those storms should pretty much be moved out by late Monday night across the deep south. Now finally looking at kind of our long range discussion, and so as you can see here, here's our low pressure that will be responsible for our severe weather threat over the next couple of days, and then you'll also get a decent amount of snow into some of the areas into the Great Lakes and north central U.S. with this system. And so some areas could see maybe I would say 8, 9, 10 inches of snow at least into Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, that is, and then into the UP of Michigan. Some of those areas could see a decent covering of snow from that system, but we won't talk about that too much in this video. But if we continue this on, and as you get into, we'll go get this back a little bit further here. So if we get to midday Monday, you have your system slowly starting to move out and move up into Canada, but that energy begins to move on out to the east, and you get further into the time frame into Tuesday night into Wednesday. You could see maybe a low pressure try to pop off here into the Ohio Valley, and maybe a quick maybe dusting of snow into some of these areas with this piece of energy, maybe Wednesday, but we'll have to figure that out a little bit as we get closer to that. Maybe that system tries to get strengthened a little bit up as it moves kind of up the eastern seaboard, but we'll try to once again figure that out as we get to it. And not a lot really happens this upcoming week, but our main focus as of now will probably be for next weekend. And then as you can see here, here's our kind of energy here, our moisture starting to show up this upcoming Friday night, the 28th. And then the European weather model shows a decently strong system here into the central U.S., and this could potentially bring a severe weather event. And the European wants to show a decent moisture return into some of these areas, so we'll have to continue to watch that. We won't get too in depth with this just because it is 7 days out by this point, 7 and 8 days out. But we'll have to watch that and see how that would play out. But that is the latest European weather model, and I would have that getting moved out by not this upcoming week, but pretty much by the beginning of April. And we'll have to really get closer to this before we can start to really dive a bit deeper with this. And so if we look at the 18Z GFS with this as well, I would say there's decent agreement with the placement of the low pressure, but the GFS looks like it has a little bit further to the north, so that will definitely limit that moisture return because the low level jet probably wouldn't pick that up as well. But we'll look at our dew points here just real quick. Do not take this as this is going to be the exact look for our dew points, our moisture here, because once again, this is 8 days out by this point, 7 and 8 days out. But still, the GFS has moisture return, a decent moisture return there into the central U.S., and that would definitely promote a severe weather threat for sure, alongside with a probably winter weather side of this system. And we'll have to look at that a little bit further too, because this low pressure, again, is we still need to figure out the track of this low pressure before we can really look at the areas that could see a potential winter weather risk or severe weather risk from the system, excuse me. And so that would be, once again, for this upcoming weekend into really late March, I should say. But the GFS has that getting out around the same time. And so now we'll look at the ensembles a little bit more, just real quick. And if we look at our, let me find it here, our ensemble member, MSLP, and so this allows us to see the kind of average track of the low pressure. And as we get into late next week into Friday, you can see that area start to form up there. And then as you get into 18Z Saturday, about midday Saturday, and as you can see, we have a pretty large spread of our members here, which each member is represented by I know it's kind of hard to see, but by the red numbers, and that represents our low pressure. But the majority of the members want to have a track through the north central U.S. and basically kind of the central U.S. as a whole, but mostly the north central U.S. And that will once again be the area we'll have to watch. And most of these have this as a decently strong low pressure as well, but nothing too crazy for this time of year, I would say. But still, we'll have to continue to watch that. And then finally, looking at our GEFS ensembles for the same time period as that. Around the kind of same area almost, but the operational GFS, I would say, has the low pressure quite a bit further north than what the ensembles are showing. So that's just something else to consider as well. The GFS ensembles would, to me, look like it would have more agreement with the European operational model, if that makes sense, from what it is showing right now. And it would have the same thing, basically a track of the low pressure into the north central U.S. for the most part, with some low pressures being in the 990, I would say around the 990, lower 990 range, maybe even upper 980 range at the maybe most extreme part of that low pressure. But that's just what the ensemble show at this time. And so, once again, we'll continue to watch this over the next several days, but we won't be able to get into the specifics at this time. But that'll pretty much be our long range discussion. That'll be it for tonight's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I'll probably have another video out in the next few days, I would say. I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's weekend.